Greetings everybody, greetings from the Schneider Electric booth at Hannover Messe. We're talking about the impact of technology in CPG, in consumer packaged goods. Our guest is Neil Smith, the segment president for consumer packaged goods at Schneider Electric. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you, Lucien.
All right, now maybe you talk with a lot of customers. Give us some insights into what market trends do you see in CPG?
Okay, so maybe starting very broadly, consumer packaged goods for us includes both life sciences and food and beverage manufacturing. There's some common elements to that. We see essentially a convergence of, requirements. So from a regulatory compliance perspective, clearly very strong in life sciences, but we see it emerging in elements of food and beverage. So things like dairy, as they move into nutritional, so baby formula and things, we start to see some crossover in requirements. But what is common across both is that we see an increase in complexity, operational complexity. So why is that happening? We're seeing mass personalization, whether it be a drug, you can have a drug for one person, so they can produce specifically for you. But also increased variability in consumer demand, which means do you want the full sugar version, the high protein version, the low fat version of any given product. And of course the cycle time of new products coming to market is getting shorter. So people are looking to bring essentially new solutions, new consumer products to the market in a shorter time. So what this means is we see within the manufacturing facility, more products are having to be produced in the existing lines and the existing footprint. Very hard for many food and beverage companies, particularly in Europe, to expand because the cities have grown around them. So they're constrained both physically and they will have a grid connection. So we're finding that energy consumption is now constrained by the town in which they're in. So if they ask for more power, for example, to be connected to the grid from the grid, might be 5 or 6 years before they're able to do it. So it's creating some interesting challenges for the industry to overcome.
Great insights, thanks for that. Now, maybe can you expand a little bit on the advancements in technology that influence in manufacturing, particularly in the CPG, in terms of the customization and flexibility you referenced earlier?
Yes, so basically you're dealing with a number of constraints. So you want to put essentially more variability out of the factory, which means you have to look at how you actually design and build. So we're seeing some simple measures, like machines are getting smaller. So footprint is now a significant consideration when a manufacturer is putting a new line in. Also, they're looking for increased flexibility of the line. So solutions like our molded carrier, which allows for different form factors to be produced on a single line. We're seeing that being adopted. We also see our machine builder customers looking to have autonomous form factor adjustment. So the machine will adjust on the fly. So that means it can change from, a 6 carton pack to a 12 carton pack without any human intervention. When we get into a sort of the upstream areas around process, it's really about how do you put more recipes through an existing infrastructure of your plant. So this is where batch solutions are quite useful, but also how do you make the most of the steel work that you have, right? Changing the steel work every day is quite difficult. You can do a certain amount with different routings and things, but how do you introduce multi-product capable plants? So this is really where you start to design as an area that we're very interested in exploring.
Thanks. Now we're sitting in front of a oatmeal machine. What exactly you're showing here?
This is a great example of how you have a physical piece of plant. So it's constrained, but how do you make multiple products out of it? So this is essentially a research project that is really taking a relatively simple process, which is making oat milk, which is quite simply milled oats and water. But you can make lots of different versions of it. So you can make the normal oat milk, you can make a high fat content, a low fat content, low sugars, you can add sugars, you can even add protein. So if you want a high protein version of it, maybe you add some protein powders to it. All of those used to need lots of different processes, and you'd have to define your recipe, which you'd have to have in logic, so you could put the sequence of exactly what was happening on the machine. Now, what we have here is essentially an adaptive control system. So this is where you're putting in the outputs you want, so how much fat content or sugar content you want. So you define the liquid footprint. We have an analyzer on there that can analyze that in real time. It's an inline analyzer. We also have things like acoustics. What's the acoustics trying to do? It's trying to work out how viscous this liquid is. So if you're making a milk, it needs to look like a milk substitute. If you're making it for a barista market, you might want to make it a little bit thicker, a little bit creamier. So we are able to do this by setting the output variables, and then the machine, with our open software solutions, software-defined automation eco expert, we're able to bring in AI into this and use these sort of, I guess, non-intrusive sensing to better produce multiple products on the same piece of infrastructure.
Thanks for that overview. Now, I was thinking on the way here to the interview is when I go to a grocery store, I don't put anything food-wise in the cart without checking the yucca and thinking about the impact of Schneider's technology on that. Maybe expand a little bit on the, if you will, the strategies that are being implemented to ensure quality, transparency, and supply chains within the food and beverage industry.
So the yucca is the QR code you're scanning to see the origin. So super important in elements of this. So life sciences is the traceability is there for product. So have you got a genuine product there? But also increasingly traceability. So traceability through the process is normally quite given, right? Every product has a batch number. We know what came into the factory. We know what the factory's produced in terms of output. Where it gets interesting is how do you do essentially the genealogy of that product? So how do you actually get beyond that factory to upstream into the production? So up to the farm, all the way through the processes. So you can actually go all the way down actually to the product and know where it's gone. And there are we know we have partners that are able to even tell you how that product has been treated through the logistical supply chain. So when you're as a consumer receiving a product in the supermarket, you know if it's a cold store product, it's been kept cold. You know which farm it has come from. So it's particularly important if you're things like you're into organics or you want to have local produce. These are ways in which the manufacturers are connecting better with their customers, but providing high level assurance, but of course differentiating themselves in the process. Probably should explain a little bit about the transparency piece, about how we, what that really looks like.
Sure.
So both from a regulatory perspective as also from a consumer, what we're really doing is capturing data points through the process. So we can capture the production data, the release data, so what is coming from quality assurance, being able to pull all that together and actually storing it either on-premise with things like OSI Pi, our nice market-leading historian product, or starting to publish this in the cloud. So we have a Connect offer where you can start through Aviva, which is quite interesting because when you have multiple stakeholders of that data, the customer can choose who accesses that data. So if you wanted to make that data visible to a customer, you were possible to do that. Or interestingly, if you start to see problems with parts of your line, you're able to open that data up to your machine provider or your systems integrator can help you diagnose and understand what is going on in your process. So very powerful, very flexible, but ultimately it's about capturing the data, contextualizing that data, and then making it available to the experts.
Exciting times. I mean, I'm excited about the fact that you can pass some of that data to the consumer so you can make more informed decisions.
That's not our decision, that's ultimately our customers' decisions, but certainly it's possible. The technology is no longer a barrier to giving essentially the consumer any assurances that they are looking for.
Thanks for those insights, and maybe expand a little bit on the benefits of modular production lines and how they contribute to high efficiency and agility in the CPG manufacturing.
Yeah, so I take a kind of almost a CFO's view of this. So it's about capital efficiency.
Sure.
I think OEE and the typical way of measuring efficiency kind of really only measures you in one way. It measures against your schedule. What really matters is how you're performing against your capital investment.
Right.
So what do I mean by that? It means if you really want to be running 24/7 and you want to be able to get as many products out of you're producing out of a run as you possibly can. So you want to measure inputs and outputs. You want to be able to measure your yield essentially. This obviously has a reduction of carbon footprint, energy footprint by individual product, because this is all about resources. One other particular area which is particularly important is around waste management. So how do you actually, how do you correct things that are going wrong before it becomes waste? So yes, you can put waste into and recycle some of these things. Some of our customers are very clever at taking defective products and putting it back into their process. But would it be better not to eliminate, to have stopped that before it happens? So there are basically through data management, data use and consumption techniques to be able to help eliminate that from actually happening through the process. So you capture it in time, do the correction on the process, and then are able to sell that product as a compliant.
Neil, thank you. I want to end with one question around, for those manufacturers that are watching this video right now, what's the biggest opportunities if they get this right, and what's the cost of not taking an action today?
Well, I think it's one of competitiveness. Ultimately, what we're doing here is helping our customers be more competitive. The world is changing, and our consumers are becoming more demanding. So I guess the consequence of not acting is that you will lose to people who are more nimble and more agile and are investing in their facilities to build this agility and efficiency and its scale within their plants. So I would implore our customers to think seriously about how technology can help them through their business desires to become more competitive, more productive, and help them grow.
Yeah, there are some that they say if you don't leverage AI by 2030, you're not going to be in business. Does that hold true for CPG?
I think in a sense, yes. So I don't know if I would put a hard date on it, but for sure, the companies that are exploiting technology, and I think history proves this, so companies that have exploited technology to their advantage, and the early adopters, they accelerate away from the rest. So if you want to be in business in 2031, maybe you need to be seriously looking at how AI helps you.
Neil, thank you for your time. And if you're in the audience, you'll have questions for Neil, feel free to leverage the hashtag you see on the screen, or better yet, come and see the demo here at Hannover Messe. One more day left.